right, so thanks for speaking with us. I want to start out asking you about a topic that is of great concern to our viewers, transportation. So we reported on the first day of school yesterday, more than 60 buses were late, which is better than in years past, but we've also heard reports about kids having to cross busy roads, kids being dropped off in the wrong place. We had one viewer ask, will transportation be improved? There has already been issues with incomplete bus routes coupled with last year's lack of buses to arrive. So my question for you is, what is your plan to improve student transportation and the safety that goes along with it?
Well, the first step began yesterday when I realized that buses were arriving late to school. And then yesterday afternoon, I started to get word, as I promised I would, that I had buses arriving late in the afternoon. And in some cases, routes had to be collapsed and different bus drivers had to take double routes, which put us behind. We have been working with our own internal transportation department, our operations division, but I've also reached out to those contracted providers in order to get some accountability moving to ensure that today was going to be a better day. So we're going to continue to work through more traffic being on the roads, more people driving. It is the first day of school, so we'll continue to monitor and make sure we're looking at on-time percentage both in the morning and an on-time percentage in the afternoon.
How are we doing with drivers? Is there a shortage at all?
I was talking to several of the transportation yards. They're down to single digits, but it doesn't take more than 6 or 7 bus drivers to have 6 or 7 routes uncovered, which means another driver has to double up. So those are some of the expectations that we have, and reviewing contractual language to make sure I'm within the contracts, but also at the same time looking at contractual language to see what we need to do to improve the accountability of all of our people who help get our young people to school.
All right. And then I also want to ask you about school closures and consolidation. What factors are going to be considered as those decisions are made?
Well, we've been working with the community around that particular issue, and they've given us great things to consider. One is about school grades, school performance, but really I think the most important factor is we have to make a decision that's in the best interest for the school district financially and in the best interest of our children educationally, and that's going to have to strike a balance. Right now the community's provided really great input that we took back to staff. Staff's pushed that through and massaged that data. They've come back with some ideas about what we think we are looking at potentially moving forward. We're going to present to the board next. The board will give us feedback, and then again we'll go back to the community for some additional input. I just think it's too soon to say these are the schools or these aren't the schools. We really promised the community, at least I know the board did and then I did upon arrival, that we would continue to engage with them till we reached a point where we needed to make a decision. It's an important decision to make, but it doesn't have to be made right now. Right now our focus needs to be opening school, working with enrollment, getting transportation fixed, but at the same time work that process to get a decision made so we can truly inform the community when decisions are made, they have time to plan.
And so are school grades going to be a factor?
School grades should always be considered in terms of student performance, and whether a school building is, school grades are one aspect of the health of a school building. But I think school grades should be at least in consideration. It doesn't mean it's a top priority. When you make decisions, there are certain things that are musts. There's certain things that have different weights. But school grades should be considered.
And
Wait, 30-second pause.
Yeah.
I'm going to get this a little bit more in the shot.
Great.
Boom. Done.
Nice. That's why she's the best.
She is the best.
Yep, we're good.
You
Folks.
good?
Thank you.
All right. And so you mentioned you're going to be, or staff will be presenting to the board an updated proposal for school closures, consolidations. Is that going to look really different from the proposal we saw from the consultants?
It already does look different. It's already been presented to the community, and it'll be presented again, and then there'll be at least one more or two more iterations of that plan that go back to the community, get additional massaging, comes back to the board. This will be a process of give and take back and forth until we get to some form of final decision as to consolidation, school closures. And again, this is going to be over a period of time. It's not like there's going to be a ton of school closures right away. We'll have to look at what the progress looks like. And one of the things that we have to consider is what enrollment numbers look like now. In some cases, I've left schools where enrollments are up, actually. So I'm excited to see what our numbers look like. We get them daily, and then we'll take a look at 7 days when we make the recalculations of our schools.
And is it in September the board's going to be voting about school closures, consolidations?
I think it's a little bit later than that.
Okay.
I think we'd probably be looking at a November deadline because we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that we have time to engage with the community. And just because we had set a timeline, I feel like we have to ensure that we've done the hard work with the community to give them the opportunity to have that input.
And some closures could be years away.
We'll have to develop a plan.
All right. I also want to ask you about Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. So there have been multiple teachers removed from the classroom there over the past year and a half due to misconduct, and there have been multiple instances where leadership at that school in the past, sometimes going back years, have failed to properly follow up on allegations of misconduct. How is the district making sure allegations of teacher misconduct are heard and taken seriously?
It's really a multiple approach to make sure that that occurs. One is the continued professional development and training of our staff to understand if they see or know about something, they have a duty and a responsibility to report it. All educators are required by law to report abuse or allegations of abuse. And I think it's important that they, number one, understand it. And number two, if they don't do it, they're held accountable for it. The other aspect is to educate our parents and our students as to what some of this could look like in social media or on a student's text messages. The teachers should not be reaching out to students via text. There should never be a one-on-one email with a student. I was just at Douglas Anderson today, and there was a lot of collection of parental emails, parental phone numbers, and some of the educators were talking to the parents about the importance of communicating with the parent, so then the parent would understand where things were going when field trips or other events were occurring. I think the whole district is making a real effort to ensure school safety, not just in the physical safety of a school building, but when a student's there, to ensure that our employees act in a professional and ethical manner.
Thank you. And is the process for reporting misconduct going to be different going forward? I know that safety plan is in the process of being implemented.
It is being implemented, and thank you for the question. I think what we have to understand is, yes, the process is going to change. There's a requirement of a teacher who has an allegation of abuse. That individual who has the knowledge firsthand must make the report to 1-800-96-ABUSE. If, for instance, if a teacher came to me as a principal and said, I know of something, I would clear my desk and my phone, get them on the hotline, and I would go cover their classroom. They have the responsibility as the first reporter to make sure that report occurs. Then it's important for that information to flow to the principal and then come down to professional standards. In each case, every time that data changes hands, there is a report back. So the teacher would know that the principal has reported it, and the principal would have documentation that professional standards now has the responsibility of the investigation.
Gotcha. And then, as you know, Duval County Public Schools have a budget shortfall of more than $1 billion. There's aging buildings, enrollment's been dropping. How do you plan to turn that around?
There are some challenges within the Duval County Public School system. I think first and foremost, the most important thing is to really drive home that we have a really great product, and our students are examples of what go out into the community and go out and populate our colleges and then return to make our community a better place. We have to do a better job of telling our story. I think that's really one of the most critical components. For instance, it's not often repeated that 91% of our schools in Duval County are graded A, B, or C. That's a much higher percentage than some of our competitors. So I think what we have to do is we have to look at what we can do in order to make sure that we tell the right message. And as we get the right message and as people begin to choose DCPS, then as more and more students return back to our schools and our classrooms, that financial position begins to improve based upon our increased enrollment versus the historical trend of a decline.
Thank you. And we know there's already a teacher shortage, and the district is projecting increased class sizes this school year because of budget constraints as COVID relief funding has dried up. How do you recruit and retain quality teachers with these challenges they're facing, including, bigger classroom sizes?
I think that's what I've been doing the last couple of days by going to classrooms and spending time with teachers and talking with them, although briefly at this point in their classrooms. And people join organizations, that people even join new services based on two really important factors: purpose and impact. If you believe you have a purpose in what you're doing and you believe that you have an impact at least every day, sometimes every week, then you'll stay in your position. We have to do a better job of letting our teachers know that their purpose is still alive and well within the public school systems in the state of Florida, and we have to find a way to ensure that they know that they have impact each and every day.
How do you plan to do that?
You just continue to tell them and make sure that you set up other systems and processes that help remind them of them. For instance, in previous counties, and what I plan to do here is in the spring during Teachers Appreciation Week, all the graduating seniors will be writing a letter back down the chain. That's what I call it. It's a writing down to write to an educator who's made a difference in their lives, to say to them, look, I'm graduating and I need you to know that one of the reasons why I'm doing that is because of great parents and great other supports. But one of the reasons I'm doing is maybe the way you treated me in 3rd grade, or maybe a really important conversation we had in 6th. They're very powerful, and we make sure that those letters are all reviewed, but then some of them are framed and we'll actually do classroom presentations, and we'll hope that you'll be able to join us for some of those.
And that's a new thing you're implementing this
That's
year?
another thing that I've asked our language arts staff. They'll have to rewrite a small piece of the language arts standards instead of doing a particular writing assignment for a letter to someone. This letter writing project will fit into the 12th grade writing projects.
Gotcha. Is more state funding needed to help with some of the budget issues Duval County Public Schools are facing?
We will never turn down additional money that comes from the state. Right now we get about $8,200 per student, but I believe that's an adequate funding level currently with the responsibilities we have. We have to do a better job of managing that money and making sure that it flows directly to classrooms and help support our educators. There's really 3 aspects to a great budget: that you have all the tools and materials necessary to educate children in a classroom, that you create best compensation packages that you can create within the dollars that you have. And another big component that people often forget is the importance of reserves. You need to make sure that you have a reserve fund balance that's healthy, and we need to work on all 3 of those areas at the same time.
So what does our reserve fund balance look like now?
We're about 4.7%. The requirement is 3. In some districts there is maybe as high as 17. 17 is a little too high. That money should be being placed in classrooms or in the compensation packages.
Gotcha, thank you. So I also want to ask you about chronic absenteeism, which the district defines as when a student misses 20 or more days of school a year. So we talked to the DCPS Director of School Behavioral Health recently, and she said it's an attendance crisis. That rate has doubled to more than 1/3 of students last year missing that much school. How do you plan to turn that around?
You turn it around one student at a time. Every time a student's absent, you build a relationship with them. You call them, you let them know that you missed them. When they return to school, you make sure that they understand how they were missed. We have to do something. That's not a leading indicator that as a superintendent I'm interested in continuing to lead the pack in the number of students who are missing school every day. We also have to spend some time with our parents and our communities, educating them of the importance of school. We reached out very strongly this past week prior to school starting, and those students who missed orientations or scheduled pickups, our schools and buildings were calling them, not because they missed, but because we missed them. It's about a message. It's about a message that a student is important and of value, and if you miss a day, you miss a huge piece of your education.
All right, and so there's been talk on the school board about this district being divided. We saw some of that during the hiring process for your position. How do you plan to bring these disparate ideology groups together, I guess, this sense that the district is not all unified right now?
There's one great piece to unifying a school district, and that is making our children the primary focus of what we do. I don't know anybody who would argue that our children need all the help and support they can and can receive in order to become productive citizens of this state, this community, and this nation. And that's the focus. It really does cut through some of the other information when you focus on how are we going to ensure that we are delivering the best possible graduates to the school, work, and higher education community.
And my last question, you've been on the job about 6 weeks now. I saw...
That long, huh?
I think that's right. I saw one of your interviews coming in, and you seem very well versed in the challenges this district is facing. How's it going so far? Talk a little bit about the work you've been doing.
We've been working on all the issues you asked me about. We've been working on everything from student retention to recruitment. We've been working on the budgetary situation for 25-26. I think it's important for your listeners to understand there are no more cuts for 24-25. We may have to move some personnel around in the early part of the school year based upon enrollments being higher or lower, but I want the staff and the community to understand that there are no more cuts for this particular school year. When we talk about a looming budget crisis, we're really talking about 25-26. That's taking a significant amount of my time, but also I think getting out into the community, building culture, having an opportunity to tour school buildings with principals, tell teachers how important they are, interact with children, starting to develop that child's voice. All of those things are in what I do every single day, and I can't think of a better place to do it other than Duval County Public Schools.
And that budget process for 25-26, what's the concern there?
Well, we've talked about it already, that there will be a shortfall potentially coming into the year. So if we have shortfalls that we know about now, we need to start making corrections now, not cuts now, but we need to start preparing in order to find those buckets of money that will allow us to balance the budget for 25-26.
And is the concern if there aren't enough students coming in?
It's a multiple factor. It's about, you asked a question about Florida funding. Florida FTE going up will help.
FTE?
Full-time equivalency. It's
Okay.
how a student is funded. A student who's enrolled full-time in a school district is a 1 FTE. There's a certain amount of money that comes with each one of those individuals. So increasing enrollment will help us. It'll increase the amount of dollars. If the funding of a student rises with the state, that'll help us. But the other piece is to look at some particular areas where maybe we are spending money that we don't need to spend and make some adjustments to try
Such
to.
as? Like, are there any areas you've seen so far you think spending?
There's a number of things under consideration right now. Like when you asked about the master's facilities plan, it's just not the time to reveal them. It's in part of the working process right now to understand where we could make some changes.
All
You
right.
having
Anything
fun?
else?
Always.
How are you finding Jacksonville?
Love it. Absolutely love it. We just moved in. So we've been a little busy with boxes and hanging and moving of furniture, but we hope after this weekend our house will be in a position where we can start enjoying the community, the beaches, and getting out a little bit more and for our personal enjoyment. But really have enjoyed the hospitality of this community. We got a chance to go to a great church service on Sunday, praying for all the educators. Just really love how this community has reached out to both Deborah and I and how much we love being here.
All right. Anything else you want people to know?
I still go back to school safety. I still go back to the fact that we're only in day number 2. Lots of children out moving about, going to bus stops, going to schools, on scooters, on bicycles. And it's been a whole summer. We're not used to looking for children. So please, as a driver in the morning commute, please be aware that there's 14,000 more employees on the road. Our teachers are back. And at the same time, all of us are sharing space with buses, stopping when those buses turn on their lights and roll out that arm. Please don't pass a stop school bus, and please drive attentively, which really means if you can, and you should, put that cell phone away.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know
Appreciate
you're
you.
busy, so
Never too busy.
thanks for making time.